In this lesson, we're going to talk about something that you've definitely got to get control of. It can make or break just about anything that you play on the guitar. Let's get into it. Hey, John here with the Blues Guitar Institute, and in this lesson we're talking about how you play, not necessarily what you play, although I want to give you some notes so that we can use it as an example. Let's do that now, and then we'll talk a little bit about how to articulate the notes to say what you want to say. That's what it's all about. So we're playing this little ending lick that you just heard out of the key of E major, and I'm going to play around here with my B and E note, and I'm going to hammer on up to the C sharp. And then back to that little part of the E major triad, slide, pull off, then switch strings and do it again. Move from the A to the G sharp. So this really kind of moves us from this E shape down here to this E shape. All right, so those are the notes. That's what we're working with, but listen to this. What if I played this instead of that way? What if I played those exact same notes a little differently? See if you like it. All right, compare it to this. The second one had some contour, had some rise and fall in it. The first one sounded like it was on 10 the entire time. And make no mistake, we're guitar players, right? We want to crank things up. We want to go all out. But I would ask you in this lesson to start thinking about how you can create a little restraint in your playing to really improve your dynamics. That's what we're talking about here. We want to create some peaks and valleys in how loud we play. If everything's on 10 all the time, then it's really hard to make a statement, right, with a single note or with a lick. But if you back your average volume, let's say, or your average force of picking attack down to a 5, then you've got some headroom to lean into. This is something that it did not come naturally to me. I started playing in rock bands and in metal bands, and so everything being super loud and aggressive all the time was just kind of the way. When I started paying attention to dynamics, I felt like it opened up my guitar playing, and I think that awareness can really do the same for you. To help you really understand dynamics and really hear it coming out of your own guitar, let's go through a little exercise here, which then we can apply to the lick. I want you to pick these two notes. It's actually where we're going to kick off that example lick later, but let's just pick them at a really light sound, right? Very light pick attack here with my two fingers, just plucking these two together very softly. We'll call this about a 3 on the intensity meter, right? And what I want you to do is spend a couple minutes and just get used to feeling that, all right? There should be no tension in your hand. If there is, that's a sign that you're probably picking too hard. We want this to be nice and easy. And then, just for one beat, I want you to move this up to a 7, right? So I'm going to play a lot louder for one beat and then come back to this 3, all right? So it's not going to be the loudest thing possible on the guitar, but it's going to be up there. Let's see if we can try it. So these are my 3s, and I'm going to pluck one a whole lot louder. And if you do that, you're going to get a feel for something that's nice and quiet and something that's pretty loud. It's not as loud as you can go. There's still some headroom, still some runway, but for the most part, you're moving from that 3-ish up to a 7. This might sound different to you, and hopefully this translates well over the video, but my 3s are pretty quiet. They could be quieter, and my 7 is pretty loud, but it could be louder. But at no point am I picking with a lot of tension in my hand, and doing this sort of over and over will help relax you, all right? So if that's a problem for you as a finger picker, give this little exercise a shot. But now let's continue this idea through our lick. We actually started with a bit of a spike dynamically. that little move where we hammer on and then come back to those two notes that we just worked on, then that was maybe about a 5. It wasn't crazy loud. But then we sort of calmed down as we ended this lick and got into this sort of home bass here, this big E major chord that we're resolving to. You could tell that the ending of this, the dynamics were sort of getting softer as we moved into this chord, all right? But we started out with a little bit of intensity. And once you learn this lick, if you do decide to learn this lick, try moving the accent around. You don't have to do it on that first little hammer on. You can create a slightly different feel by doing that and coming in softer. Pick a different note to put your 7 on when it comes to the intensity and how hard you're picking. I hope you'll work through this lick and change the accents up a little bit, but definitely make this little simple exercise something that you do to make yourself a little more aware of dynamics. I'm telling you, when I finally started paying attention to it in my playing, it really opened things up and it allowed parts to sound like they had a little bit more soul going on. And it doesn't just apply to this nice E majory vibey thing. It can definitely apply in some crushing Delta blues as well. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you did, be sure to check out this next video and keep learning. Hit subscribe if you're into that. Come on back next week for another acoustic lesson, and I'll see you there. Until then, practice smart and play on.